Okay, we've been studying the book Exodus. Now today, chapter 14. Okay, so been studying Exodus, and today, you know the movie 10 Commandments, right? You've seen before, right? Okay. Remember, what's the most interesting thing that happened in that movie, 10 Commandments?
About Moses.
Yeah, Moses.
Oh, these people. Oh,
Right? You remember watching the movie? Seen the movie before? What's the most exciting part of the movie?
about that full of rip.
Yeah. God separated the Red Sea. It's like an ocean. Okay, God separated it, and Jewish people walked through in the mud, right?
No.
They walked through the mud. Yes or no? Yes, no. No. No, no, no. We'll read. You know, if they had wagons, right? Maybe some wagons with horses or donkeys, whatever, with the wheels. If it was wet and muddy, they get stuck, right? The wheels get stuck, right? But we're going to read, it said, dry land that they walked through. So we'll read it. Okay. So, in verse 1, it says, And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel that they turn and camp before Philaroth, between Migdal and the sea, over against Baal-zephon. Before it shall ye camp by the sea. Okay? So God telling Moses to tell the Jewish people, you go travel here, and you're going to camp near the sea. Okay? The Red Sea. Verse 3. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land, in the wilderness, has shut them in. Verse 4. We read this phrase again and again and again in 13 chapters in Exodus. It says, God speaking, he says, and I will Pharaoh's heart. God will make hard Pharaoh's heart. We read that again and again and again in this book of Exodus. Okay, so we had, why? God make the Pharaoh's heart hard. Why? Because he wants to prove himself to the Egyptian people and to the Pharaoh that he is the supreme God, the only God. That's why. Okay? It says, God speaking, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he shall follow after them, and I will be honored on Pharaoh, on all his host, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. And they did so. Verse 5 said, and it was told to the king of Egypt that the people fled. Okay? So this happened after Passover time. Last week we studied about the Passover. Okay? It was the final judgment, the final punishment against the Pharaoh, against the Egyptian people. Okay, because the Pharaoh was stubborn, would not let the Jewish people free. Okay, so the final punishment, God went through the country and killed the firstborn of every family. Right? So question, remember how protected some people? How were they protected? Remember?
They use blood.
Yeah.
Blood.
Yeah. Every family sacrificed the lamb. They had the blood. Went to the door of the house with the blood. When God went through the country, if he saw the blood on the door, he passed through, searching other house. No blood, he went in. Firstborn, didn't matter. Person, animal, died. Pharaoh's firstborn died. Okay. Finally, the Pharaoh, he was grieved so much. He said, go, Jewish people, Moses, go. Right? So now it's after. Jewish people have been traveling. God's leading them through the day. What they follow. Jewish people, they're traveling through the wilderness in the daytime. In the daytime, they followed what? Followed what?
Jewish with the Red Sea.
Yeah, but they saw something that was leading them through the day. What'd they see?
A light. It's even light.
Close. Cloud. A cloud, a pillar of a cloud, remember? So himself, God, in that pillar, was leading the Jewish people through the wilderness. Right? At night, when they travel, what they follow at night?
Fire.
Yeah, it was fire. So they could see, right, light, and they'd follow when they travel at night. Okay. So God led them, arrived to the Red Sea, the coast. In verse 5, it says, and it was told to the king of Egypt that the Jewish people fled. And the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was against Jewish people. They said, why have we done this? We let them go and stop serving us. Remember, the Jewish people were slaves 400 years. Right? But now, gone. But the Egyptians, before they had slaves to cook, to clean, to build whatever, now they're stuck. Who's going to work? Right? So that now they feel sorry. Why did we let them go free? Why? What are we going to do? Verse 6. And he, Pharaoh, made ready his chariot, and he took his people with him. Okay? Verse 7 says, and he took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt, and captains over every one of them. Alright? So, before they didn't have tanks, didn't have planes to bomb, right? They had horses and soldiers. Okay? The special captains, they'd ride the horses, they had the chariots, or is it chariots? Wagon? Here, wagon? Which wagon?
There.
Wagon. Okay, so same chariot, okay, for the officers, right, the important soldiers. So they brought all in the country of the chariots, okay? Verse 8. And the Lord hardened the heart Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And he, the Pharaoh, pursued the children of Israel. And the children of Israel went out with an high hand. I don't know what that means. You understand what that means? They were strong. They left full, maybe. Remember, the Egyptian people gave them a lot of things, food and jewelry and things. I don't know. I have to read that. Verse 9. But the Egyptians pursued after them all the horses and the chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army. They overtook them camping by the sea, beside Philip, before Basil. Okay. So, now, you think, thousands and thousands and thousands of Jewish people traveling through the wilderness. They arrive at the sea, and they look. What do they see? Like dust, dirt in the air. The horses, the dirt in the air. They see clouds of dirt. And they're worried. The army's following us. We're against the sea. We're stuck. Where are we going to go? We can go that way or that way. We're stuck. Right? Verse 10 says, and when Pharaoh was near, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. And they were so afraid. And the children of Israel cried out to the Lord. Okay? 11 says, and they said to Moses, they began complaining against Moses, right? They said, over there in Egypt, they don't have graves for us because we're slaves, and you have led us here to die in the wilderness? Why have you done this to us, to free us from Egypt? Verse 12. This is the word we told you in Egypt, saying, let us alone, we'll stay. We want to stay here. We'll serve the Egyptians. It would have been better for us to stay there than to die here. So they were complaining against Moses. Right? So, just imagine. But we need to remember what they saw God do. They forget fast. Well, I'm not living with them in the past, so now we can read and we think, you forgot. God protected you from the death angel in Passover. He saw the blood on the door. He didn't kill your firstborn. He protected you. You forget that? Right? Again and again, when we read the Old Testament, the Jewish people forget the great things that God did for their country and their nation, right? They forget. They complain. They backslide, right? We read it again and again and again. But really? Right? Sometimes we forget the good things God's done for us. Right? We forget He forgave us. He saved us. Sometimes we don't focus on Him. We focus our problems, we focus, hey, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? We forget the good things He's done for us. Same Jewish people, right? Okay. Verse 13. And Moses told the people, don't fear. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord that He will show you today. For Egyptians that you see, you won't see them again. You won't see them again. Never. Verse 14. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And watch. And watch. Verse 15. And the Lord said to Moses, wherefore crieth to me? You speak to the children of Israel that they will go forward. Verse 16, God says, but lift up thy rod and stretch out thy hand over the sea and divide it, and the children of Israel shall go on wet ground? Wet ground? What's it say? Dry. Not wet. Not mud. Says dry ground. Okay? Through the midst of the sea. Okay, so God tells Moses, your rod, lift it up, your hand, and the sea is going to separate. Okay. If you have, I don't know, a river, maybe a small creek near your house, before kids, we play. We make boats and watch it. Maybe you had a lot of rocks and you build a wall, try and stop the water, right? So you build a wall. Maybe you use some mud and you scoop it up and try and stop the water. Okay, maybe, fine, you stop it here. Over here, the ground, it's still wet, right? It's still muddy, right? I stopped the water from flowing, this wall, the water But here, no. But the ground is wet, right? Separate the sea, the ground dry. Miracle, right? Okay. Verse 17 says, "And I, behold, will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow. I will get the honor on Pharaoh and on all his host, on his chariots and on his horsemen." Verse 18. "And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten me honor on Pharaoh, on his chariots, on his horsemen." Okay? So God's going to prove himself to the world, the Egyptian people, that he is the true one, Almighty God. Okay? Okay, so we're halfway through, so we're going to stop now. But you have the lesson if you want to read it next week. Maybe Steve will finish. Maybe you finish the lesson next week. Your decision. Thank you for coming. We'll have a break time, and church begins in 10 minutes. Okay?